All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling ontology.
Ontology.
It sounds kind of intimidating, right? Like something you'd hear in a philosophy lecture.
It does.
But trust me, it's way more interesting than you might think. Ontology is like the hidden framework behind how we understand, well, everything.
Exactly. From everyday object.
To get this, artificial intelligence,
It's working all the time, behind the scenes, even if we don't realize it.
it's how our brains organize the world.
Yeah, like creating mental models.
Okay, I'm intrigued. And for this deep dive, we're using an article from pcweb.info.
Okay.
It's from February 21st, 2025.
Recent.
Super recent, yeah. It's titled Ontology in Information Science Complete Guide.
Catchy.
And they make this great point about how, like, a poker player's ontology of cards,
Okay.
all the suits and hands,
Right.
is totally different from a doctor's ontology of, the human body.
Huge difference. And those differences, how we categorize information, they matter. Like, a lot.
In what way?
Think about a medical AI trying to diagnose a patient.
Okay.
Without a good ontology, it might mix up a heart attack and heartburn
Oh, wow.
because the symptoms are similar. But a well-defined ontology, it lets the AI see those crucial differences.
That's a powerful example. So we're not just talking philosophy here, right?
Right.
It's also about building, like, intelligent systems.
Exactly. It's a formal way to represent knowledge, like a blueprint.
A blueprint.
Yeah, but instead of for a building, it's a blueprint for understanding, for a specific topic or domain.
So how would this actually work in the real world? Like, let's say a doctor is using an ontology.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Well, imagine they're using like a digital system to record patient info.
Okay, yeah.
The ontology might have categories for diseases, symptoms, treatments,
Makes sense.
all carefully defined and linked to each other. So if the doctor enters chest pain,
Right.
the ontology helps them navigate like potential diagnoses based on related symptoms, medical history.
So it's like this interconnected web of knowledge helping them make decisions.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. Now, the article mentions these core parts of an ontology:
Okay.
individuals, classes, attributes, and relationships.
Yeah.
Let's break those down. Individuals seem pretty straightforward, the actual things in the world, right?
Right, the basic building blocks. Like, think of a Ford Bronco. That's an individual.
Okay.
But it also belongs to a class, which would be cars.
Ah, so we're already building these layers of organization. What about attributes and relationships? Those seem more complex.
So attributes are like characteristics that describe individuals or classes. Our Ford Bronco has attributes like color, engine size, and interestingly enough, successor. The article points out that the Ford Explorer is the successor to the Bronco.
Wait, so an attribute can describe a historical connection. It's not just about like physical traits. It's about their place in a bigger picture.
Exactly. It's how ontologies create meaning. They show us how things are connected, even in ways we might not realize. And that's where relationships come in. They define how things, individuals or classes, relate to each other.
Okay, so these building blocks, they're working together to build a pretty intricate system. But where did this whole idea of ontology even come from? The article mentions some big names from philosophy, which always makes me a bit nervous.
Don't worry, we won't go too deep into the philosophy. But it is interesting to know that this concept, it's been around for centuries.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Philosophers like Jacob Lorhard, they were thinking about these ideas way back in the 1600s. But it was in the 20th century that ontology really became a thing, like its own field of study, thanks to folks like Edmund Husserl.
And how did it go from like philosophy to information science? That seems like a big leap.
It is a fascinating story. So mid-20th century, researchers are working on artificial intelligence, and they hit a wall.
What kind of wall?
They realized if they wanted machines to understand the world, to reason, they needed a way to represent knowledge in a structured way.
So they needed to give machines a way to like model the world?
Exactly, and that's where ontology came in. They took the term from philosophy and started using it for computer systems, a way to encode knowledge that machines could use.
So they gave those early AI systems a basic ontology?
Yeah.
I love that. And the article mentions something called an ontology layer in knowledge systems from the 1990s.
Uh-huh.
Was that a precursor to like the semantic web?
It absolutely was. Those early attempts, the ontology layers, they were laying the groundwork for what we see today.
It's amazing how these ideas have been evolving, like building on each other for decades.
Right.
And now they're having a real impact.
They are.
Back again for more ontology. After that last conversation, I started seeing ontologies everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I unlocked a new way of understanding how information's organized. Like my brain got rewired or something.
That's what these deep dives do, right?
For sure. So let's get back to those real-world applications.
Okay.
Last time, we talked about AI and the semantic web.
Right.
But the pcweb.info article hints at some amazing stuff in healthcare, finance, even social media.
A lot of potential.
Let's with healthcare, because that's where ontologies seem to be having a huge impact.
You are.
The article mentions this thing called SNOMED CT,
SNOMED CT.
which I gotta admit sounds like something out of Star Wars.
It does have a kind of futuristic ring to it, but SNOMED CT is very real, and it's changing healthcare.
How so?
It stands for Systematized Nomenclature of Medicine Clinical Terms.
Okay.
It's basically a massive ontology, covers almost everything in healthcare diseases, symptoms, procedures, medications.
Wow.
It's like a universal language for medicine.
So instead of every hospital using its own jargon, they can all use SNOMED CT to communicate.
Exactly.
That seems so much more efficient.
It is, especially in emergencies. Ontologies, they break down those information silos
Right.
so everyone's on the same page, which can literally save lives.
The article also talks about integrating patient records from different sources.
Yeah.
That seems huge for personalized medicine.
It is. Imagine a doctor having a complete picture of a patient's history from different hospitals, labs, even wearable devices.
Okay, yeah.
With that view, they can make better decisions about diagnoses, treatments.
Are you saying they could predict health problems before they happen?
Potentially, yes.
How?
AI systems can analyze tons of data and spot patterns we might miss. And ontology can help connect the dots,
Between?
like sleep patterns, stress levels, genetics, to predict risks.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having a crystal ball for your health.
In a way, yes, we're moving toward more proactive healthcare.
And it's not just individual patients, right?
Right.
Ontologies are also helping with medical research.
Absolutely. Integrating data from trials, studies, genetic databases,
Okay.
researchers can understand diseases better, develop new treatments.
So healthcare is clearly a big area for ontologies. What about other fields? The article mentions finance, but finance always seemed kind of dry to me compared to like revolutionizing healthcare.
Finance might seem dry at first glance,
Yeah.
but it's a world of complex data. Stock prices, market trends, risk assessments,
True.
and ontologies are perfect for making sense of it all, uncovering insights that we might miss otherwise.
Okay, give me an example. How are ontologies used in finance?
Well, one application is fraud detection.
Fraud detection.
Banks are using ontologies to build systems that can spot suspicious transactions in real time.
Really?
By analyzing patterns, flagging anomalies, they can stop fraud before it happens.
Wow, that's impressive. Any other examples?
Ontologies are also used for personalized financial services.
Okay.
Imagine a financial advisor who really gets you, your goals, risk tolerance, all that.
Yeah.
They could use an ontology system to recommend investments tailored to your needs.
So no more generic advice that doesn't really apply to me. It's like having a personal financial guru, but powered by an ontology.
That's a great way to put it.
Speaking of personalized experiences, what about social media? I wouldn't have thought ontologies would be big there. Isn't social media about, like, being social? How do structured ontologies fit in?
It might seem counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but ontologies can actually make social media smarter, more engaging. Think about hashtags.
Okay.
They're basically keywords, right? They tag content.
Yeah.
But with ontologies, we can go beyond keywords, create richer connections.
So instead of just hashtag travel, I could tag a photo with, like, the destination type of trip activities.
Exactly. And with that data, social media platforms can do more. They can recommend better content, connect you with people who share your interests.
It's like turning social media from mindless scrolling into a tool for discovery.
That's a great way to think about it. And this is just the beginning.
Really?
With the Internet of Things, we have more and more devices connected. Smart homes, self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Ontologies will be crucial for making them communicate with each other and with us.
That makes sense. But with all this amazing potential, I'm wondering about the bigger picture. What does this mean for how we understand reality, knowledge, even consciousness?
The big questions. We've seen how ontologies help machines make sense of the world.
Yeah.
But what about our own minds? Is consciousness just a really complex ontology?
Whoa, that's a deep thought.
It is.
I'm ready to get philosophical. Welcome back for the final part of our ontology deep dive. We've seen how ontologies are shaping the world, from healthcare to social media.
Yeah.
But now I want to tackle those big philosophical questions, the ones we teased at the end of last time.
Okay, you ready to get deep?
I think so. This is where it gets really mind-bending.
It does. We've gone from practical applications to, like, the nature of reality, consciousness. It's a pretty wild ride.
So in part one, we talked about everyone having their own personal ontology.
Right, their unique way of understanding things.
But if knowledge is subjective, shaped by our own experiences,
Yes.
does that mean there's no such thing as objective truth?
That's a question philosophers have been wrestling with forever.
Yeah,
And while I don't have a definitive answer,
of course not.
I think ontologies can help us navigate these questions by being clear about our assumptions, defining our terms carefully,
Okay.
articulating relationships between concepts.
So instead of just debating ideas, we can use ontologies to like break them down.
Exactly. Into smaller pieces. And see how those pieces fit together.
It's like taking a complex machine apart.
Yeah, like that.
Examine each part, and then you understand the whole thing better.
Exactly. And in doing that, we might find inconsistencies, gaps in our understanding.
Oh, interesting.
Like maybe our assumptions are wrong or our definitions are too vague, that self-reflection can get us closer to the truth, or at least a better understanding of it.
So it's not about finding one absolute truth, but more about creating a framework.
Yes, a framework for exploring different perspectives, finding common ground.
That's powerful, especially in a world that feels so divided.
It is. It's like we're building bridges instead of walls.
I love that, and it highlights how ontologies can foster empathy. Understand, if we can articulate our own ontologies,
Right.
we can see where our views overlap and where they differ.
And that's a great starting point for real dialogue.
You know, it's hitting me now. We've talked about ontologies as organizing data, knowledge,
Yeah.
but maybe they also organize our thoughts, beliefs, values. It's like our brains are running on a personal ontology.
That's a profound thought. It raises questions about consciousness itself.
Really?
Is our sense of self, our awareness, just a super complex ontology?
Whoa, that's mind-blowing.
It is pretty wild, isn't it?
Makes you wonder if studying ontologies in machines and in ourselves could unlock some big mysteries about the mind.
Definitely a possibility. Think about how ontologies work. They break down complex things, define relationships, create hierarchies, networks of knowledge.
And that sounds a lot like what our brains do, right?
Exactly. So maybe consciousness emerges from a similar process, just on a much grander scale.
This has really shifted my perspective. I used to think of ontologies as this technical thing,
Yeah.
but now I see them as fundamental to how we understand the world, how we think, maybe even who we are.
That's the beauty of these deep dives, right? They challenge us, expand our thinking.
Absolutely. This has been an incredible exploration of ontology. From the practical to the philosophical, I feel inspired,
Me too.
and I hope our listeners are too.
And for those listening, I encourage you, keep exploring this. Look for the patterns, the connections in the world around you. Think about how you organize your own knowledge. Maybe even try articulating your own ontology. You might be surprised what you find.
That's great advice. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Deep Dive.
My pleasure.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep diving.